Okay, we should be live.
We should be, and we are, I think.
Cool.
Hi, everybody, and welcome to our Tunic Game Over stream, our chance to dive in and reflect on Tunic, a game that we've played for the past month and a little bit extra.
My bad, everyone.
That's all good. We're going to go through our thoughts about Tunic. We're going to unveil next month's game, and we're going to give away a copy of the game to whoever solves our puzzle first. Or if nobody solves it, just at the end of the stream, we'll give it away to somebody randomly. Is there any housekeeping we need to do, Elliot? I feel like we should kind of talk about what the Game Over streams are conceptually, because it's the first one that we're doing.
Yep. Sorry, that was a suggestion that I do that.
That was a little lead-in for you.
Natural. Yeah. We've got our natural rapport still. This is fine.
Yeah.
So basically, each month we obviously play a game for the We Heart Games thing, and then we have these Game Over streams at the end to just try and get everyone together so we can talk about the game. Basically, Ruben and I'll share some stuff from our playthroughs and talk about our stuff, but we also really want to hear from everybody who joins us, and it's really the community coming together to talk about the game that we just spent a month or whatever playing.
Yeah, so you'll see obviously on the stream we've got Twitch chat coming up, so feel free to pop your opinions in and we'll respond to things as we go. And yeah, I mean, We Heart Games, we're excited to kind of be getting back into the swing of things, doing our streams and doing our Game Over streams. So I think, should we get into it, Elliot?
Yeah.
All right.
Without further ado.
Well, what did you think of Tunic?
I mean, it was me who suggested that we do this as our opening game, which is tipping my hand a little bit. I love this game. It's like it takes all the good parts of Dark Souls, which I want to get into later, and does them perfectly, and then combines it with some Zelda stuff, which is a quick way to my heart. And then I just love the kind of love letter to game like vibe it has, like all the stuff with the instruction manual and the meta puzzles. Like I just thought that was such a cool idea. Anyway, I love this game. Like, and I think it plays with intentionally futzing its own like it's like intentionally imperfect game design. Which is like something that I think is making a comeback, and I'm excited for.
That's interesting. What do you mean by that?
So I do think there is, if you follow all of the like quote unquote good rules of game design, which obviously that's incredibly subjective or whatever, but I think it's like if you maximize the way to which you're doing all of the rules that people expect games to work or whatever, your game kind of ends up coming across as a bit bland. Whereas I think as well as nostalgia, a reason a lot of us are still attached to games from like the 80s and 90s is because people are still figuring shit out. Some of them have these quirks that like are kind of in many ways objectively like a bad way to do things, but like I think like those wrinkles make a part of why you end up loving the game. And like the resurgence of indie games over the past decade, I think, is like reviving that, because indie games don't always have the resources to perfect the game.
Well, obviously this isn't an indie example, but you've mentioned Dark Souls, and those are games that are kind of intentionally obtuse, right?
Well,
that is
Dark
part
Souls,
of why they're loved.
Dark Souls has as many examples of this that I hate as that I love. Like Dark Souls is one where, and I think we talked about this back in Game Club when we covered Dark Souls, but like for me, Dark Souls, they kept trying to break rules, and I think they could have done a better job of asking themselves why they're breaking the rule, not just breaking the rule. Whereas like I think a lot of these modern indie games are having a lot more fun sort of like intentionally kind of doing something in a way that is a bit obtuse and weird, but it just works.
So do you have an example from Tunic? I'm trying to get a good picture. I mean, I'm sure we might touch on some in the future. I wonder if there's one you want to pull out now.
Yeah, I guess there's just a few bits. I mean, Tunic's honestly hard to talk about because this is I would call it a core tenet of Tunic, is like it intentionally makes things incredibly unclear and relies on you to use wider game knowledge.
Yes.
Like this would be the worst game in the world to have somebody play as their first video game.
Yeah, without having that kind of contextual knowledge of what games often are,
Yeah.
Yeah, that's interesting. That's really interesting. Yeah, I think there's a lot of like assumed knowledge, even just in like what is a dodge roll. You know what I mean? Like
Yes. Yeah.
you kind of need to know that. Well, maybe not. Maybe this is us
Yeah. Well, I
coming
ran
from
into
a
this
background
actually
of.
with my
Mm,
sister playing. So she got into Cult of the Lamb about 4 months ago, and she hasn't really
mm,
played any video games since like the Wii. Um, and she'd never played any Dark Souls or anything. And so it was like she'd been playing for about 10 hours when I had to explain to her that like you could roll through things with your dodge roll and like not take damage. Like she had
mm,
just
mm.
assumed that for the entire roll, her
You could
collider was
still
still
take
active,
damage.
which is
Yeah.
actually a sensible like assumption to make.
Well, yeah, I mean, without knowledge of like colliders or hitboxes or some of these things that I think gamers just kind of pick up as lingo, you
Yeah.
wouldn't necessarily make those jumps. And for example, in Tunic, I think part of the instruction manual breaks down what the invincibility frames of your dodge roll are, but
Yes, it
obviously
does.
in not English. So if you wouldn't pick that up until maybe the end of the game, and maybe that's fine. But it's just kind of an interesting. You're right. It's an interesting point.
There's a bit of a diagram, like from memory, there's a diagram which sort of implies to you that the first half is different from the second half,
Yeah.
but which I immediately was like, okay, so I only have the
Those
invulnerability
are
for the
the
first one.
iframes or whatever. Yeah,
Yes.
exactly.
Um, but yeah, like, you may not necessarily grok that if you're not experienced with games. Yeah. Like
Yeah,
this,
it's
this
true.
is a game for people who have played a lot of video games.
Well, and the manual obviously
Yes.
is a very cool part of that. I want to talk about my thoughts on this game because I
Yes.
feel like I don't think I love it as much as you do, but I'd give it maybe a 9 out of 10 if we're scoring things here, which I guess we are. Um, and it's for such an interesting reason, which is like it's kind of these two pieces. You know what I mean? Like it's a Zelda game and a puzzle game, right? And
Yes.
it kind of goes between these two halves. And I think it's very interesting that for the first half of the game, you're really only interacting with the Zelda game bits. Um, and then for the second half of the game, you start interacting a lot more with the puzzle game bits. And it kind of almost tricks you into playing this puzzle game that is so much bigger than you expected, right? Like,
Yeah.
there's so many more puzzles in this game than you expect there to be. And I think that's really interesting. And I really loved I would say, the kind of, when I finished this game and sat back and thought about it, the ways I would sum it up is like, it feels like a 10 out of 10 puzzle game stapled onto a 7 out of 10 Zelda game. You know what I mean? And that's so interesting to me, the idea of it. Like, I wonder, the developer of this game, did they start out with both halves in mind? Was this originally a Zelda game and then they just fell in love
Yeah.
with puzzles and added more? Or was it originally a puzzle game and they wanted to add a wrapper under it? Or was it both of those things at the same time? It's so interesting to me to think about, like, a game that almost relies on tricking the player. And
Yeah.
that inherently has to be somewhat antagonistic, I
Yes.
guess, but also like, yeah, it's so weird. Like, because despite thinking the Zelda game parts of this game are some of the weaker bits, I wouldn't want them to invest more time into it, which is such a weird thing to think. But
Yeah.
yeah, I don't know. I just felt this tension between those two halves, and I don't have thoughts on actually how you would be able to resolve that tension.
Yeah, no, so that's interesting because I hadn't thought about it that like. So I guess in my head, I just assumed like this game scratched an itch for me, which was obviously I love all the Zelda games, especially
Hmm.
all the 2D ones. But there was this sort of sense of I wanted more intricacy in the latter half. It's like for me, this felt like a natural progression of like a Zelda super fan putting a game together where like after you're sort of done doing most of the dungeons and exploring the world, then the game is like, okay, now really use this knowledge. And so the easy example of that is obviously finding the heroes' graves
Hmm.
is like towards the end is this
Yeah.
moment of like, oh, now I really need to use my knowledge of the
Yeah, it's like a
environment.
competency test, right?
Yes,
Which I think
yeah,
is great.
yeah, it's like a navigation competency test in the same way a boss is a combat one.
Yeah.
Um, and I really, really enjoyed that. And then I think sort of a lot of the stuff, well, particularly the Golden Path and everything, sort of takes that. But like, I just saw it as kind of like somebody who likes puzzle games or wanted this more intricate, interwoven Zelda game, just like adding that onto Zelda. So, like in my head, to
Interesting.
answer your question, I'd saw it as a Zelda game where somebody was like, but let's take the macro puzzle nature of a dungeon to the next level.
Mm.
Um, but that is totally me just projecting my own wishes onto the devs that may wait. And like,
But
yeah, you asked that question now, and I'm like, that's a really good point because like the Golden Path, as an example, strays from that a little bit, and like
mm.
a lot of the fairy puzzles as well are like that's just straight up and turning into an obtuse puzzle game.
But then the fact that that something so core to the vibe of the game is this manual that's in another language. That
Mm,
is like this big meta puzzle which you're interfacing with for the entirety of the game, and
yes.
is almost kind of what a lot of the little bits of puzzle are built around interfacing with this meta puzzle of the manual and the other and Tunic as a
Yeah.
language. Like I can't imagine somebody designing this game without the manual being in another language being a core part of it, and that's such a puzzle game
Yeah.
thing. I don't know. It's so interesting.
Yeah, yeah, no, I see what you mean, and I guess like I am jumping ahead a bit in our notes, but like this, there was a lot of talk back when we covered Dark Souls for Game Club, where people were like, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
Miyazaki is like creating this sense he had playing games in English when he was a kid, and he didn't speak English, and it was all confusing, and blah blah. And I made my feelings on that clear at the time, but like this game does that perfectly, and I mean a little bit more on
Yeah.
the nose because it literally includes an untranslated manual
Yes.
in the game. Um, so like the comparison's sort of right there to be made, but
Yeah. Well, I wonder if there is a formative experience of playing The Legend of Zelda in Japanese and it wasn't localized, or
yeah,
and that's kind of core to the inspiration of the design of this game. You can totally feel that if that's the case.
yeah, like it does feel like this argument because it's the original Legend of Zelda game, I think, which actually you are meant to read the manual to
Mm.
like know how to do some of the things in the game, and that's why like when Nintendo like re-releases it on Virtual Console or whatever, that like sometimes the game just feels fucking impossible. It's because you're actually meant to be using the manual, and so
Yeah.
it feels like somebody kind of said like, "Man, I really miss like when you had to use the manual to play the game,"
Mm.
and then yeah, like it escalated from that point.
Mm. Yeah, it's interesting. Let's get into it. I think on the next slide is a clip that sums up some of the things that I felt made this only a 7 out of 10 Zelda game.
Yeah, okay, I'll hit play.
You gotta take it to the right spot as well.
I don't know why.
Fucking thing.
Well, here we go. It's only 10 seconds away, right?
Do you want to jump to, what is it, 152 something?
So,
Yeah, go.
Oh, that's where it is.
oh, did I just parry? I did. Wow. Go me.
Did you ever parry in this game successfully, Elliot?
You uploaded this clip in our notes, and my first response was, "There's a parry."
Yeah, right? Like, um, I don't know. I feel like that's such a perfect example. Like, I think that was the only time I ever successfully parried anything, and I don't know if you can tell from that clip, but it was accidental.
Yes.
It's just like, what what is the deal with that? Why is that? Why is that there? I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just kind of anti-parry in general. I mean, parrying was part of the reason I stopped playing Elden Ring when it first came out, which was a whole thing for people following my streams then. But just because I have no sense of rhythm and I'm bad at timing, I'm anti-parry, generally
As a
speaking.
mechanic, sure, sure.
Just basically because I'm not good at it, I would be happy for it to be removed from all games. But yeah, no, like I think that the parry was maybe meant to be one of these because obviously something this game builds a lot of is like revealing to you that there was something you could have done the whole time and being
Mm.
like, yeah, like you could have prayed at you could have prayed at that warp point from the start of the game if you wanted to,
Yeah.
like that sort of thing. And I guess maybe they wanted the parry to be something like that, but like like in doing that with something so simple as that, you need to make it hard enough to do that. I guess it just becomes like undoable.
Well, or put a lot more into the combat system, right? And that's something that I
Yeah,
think is really interesting about this game is like the combat system is quite simple, but I don't want them to put more into it. You know what I mean? Like, I think everything in game development is a balance of effort and where you spend your effort, especially in indie games for small teams like this. And I think if they had put more effort into the combat system, maybe, yeah, it would have made it into a 10 out of 10 Zelda game, but that would have been at the expense of the puzzles, which I think were actually kind of the best part of the game. So, like, it's really interesting to have thoughts like, this is lacking, but I actually don't want them to put more because I think its simplicity actually helps
yeah.
the blend of the two genres better, you know?
I would have loved just like one slight variation in what you can do with the sword or something, like just one extra like heavy attack move or something,
Or like a spin attack. I was expecting
yes.
to be able to learn a spin attack just because I've been Zelda brained, I guess.
I just would have loved one extra variant of attack just to spice up the enemy variety a bit, because what I ended up finding is that enemies came in the variety of I could just run up to them and instantly like button mash until they were dead, or I had to be really patient, and I have no patience. So those enemies I just came to despise because they required me to wait more than 2 seconds.
The big green rat with the shield, is that what you mean? That's the iconic. Are you sure? I don't know their names, but yeah.
Oh, are you talking about the frogs? No, wait. What you...
No, I'm talking about the big green rat with the shield.
Yeah.
You know?
I think they're called envoys. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, like it just... and I'm particularly thinking, I really want to talk about it again later, but I love that part. I think it's in the cathedral where you drop down and you have to like pray at a bunch of shrines.
Yes.
And fight like waves of enemies.
Mm-hmm.
And that one was really fun, but that was the point where I really noticed how for some enemies, the combat was like 90% waiting. And I didn't like that balance. And I feel like that was a result of there only being one cadence to the like attack.
To the attacking. Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, I wonder if adding something that's like a I don't know, a dash attack or something would have mixed up.
Yeah.
But again, like I kind of feel like I don't want that, you know. I actually don't want. I think the balance of some simple sword attacks and you have some magic and some items and bombs and stuff to like spice it up if you need to. Like, I don't know. I think that's as much as I would want it to go in that direction.
Yeah, I literally only want one extra move. So I'm not looking for something as intense as like, Dark Souls.
Sure.
Dark Souls has a million things. I think like just one more would have done me. But yeah. Actually, speaking of like the boss and stuff. Now I've always been one of those people, you know, who saves everything for the final boss and then still doesn't.
You're a hoarder.
Yeah, like I've always been bad for that. But I feel like I was even worse in Tunic because I never figured out what most of them did. So
yeah, sure.
Because it was all the ones, as soon as something came up and it had a limited supply, I was too afraid to ever use it. So I think I finished the game. I think I used about 10 bombs in the end, and that was it.
Well, but the bombs refresh, so I don't know why you didn't use them. You totally should have been using them the whole time.
I think there's a part of the manual that tells you that, but I didn't read that part. I never knew that.
Or just, if you use them, it becomes apparent to you immediately.
This is the thing, is like it was a game that very much...
And in fact,
and this is a me thing, you know what I mean?
I think the way it works, to dive even further, is the more you use your bombs, the more you get. I think that's how it works. Like, I don't know the exact mechanics behind it, but I think, you know, once you've used 100 bombs, you get 3 every time you rest, and once you use 500 bombs, you get 4 or whatever.
Like, I had no idea about that. No, yeah. I would have used it. Like, is it the same with like the fruits and stuff?
I don't think so. So that's interesting to me, is that your health potions, you know, your Estus flasks, let's just call them. We're making a lot of Dark Souls comparisons, but I think some of them are warranted.
Well, this game is blatantly
it obviously
Dark
is drawing
Souls
things from Dark Souls. Like, that's fine.
Like it's taking Dark Souls' like formula and pasting it on a 2D Zelda game in a lot of ways.
Yeah. Yes, but so, you know, like the regenerating health flasks and the regenerating bombs and stuff, like that's obviously good for giving you this, I guess, like replenishing supply. But then that doesn't apply to like the health fruits or the, you know, like the fake clone item. I don't know if you ever really used that one.
No, that one, because I only had like 3 of them and I was too scared I'd use it wrong.
Well, I guess you can buy them from the shop, but yeah, it just felt kind of strange to me, this idea of some of the things replenish, some of them don't. Yeah, pretty odd.
Yeah,
in my
I guess it was just
opinion.
I almost was just bringing this up as like, as somebody who already has a problem with using depletable items in games, not having clear instructions on how these ones worked just magnified that to the point where I just didn't use them. And that, I guess
Mm,
this is maybe me just self-incriminating rather than criticizing the game, but it was just like, I just would have loved if you got them back when you died. I think that was the first time I used a bomb and then I didn't get that back when I died. That was
mm,
what made me go, well, I can never use these.
yeah. That's a you problem, I think, Elliot. I feel
Yeah.
like I
But what if
kind
I
of
find
agree,
a
but
boss later? Like,
also,
and I mean, I never fought the air, is the thing. So,
oh,
well, I did, and I lost, and then I
you
googled it
never
and found
beat
out
the air.
found out that there was a true ending, and just never went back to it.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, I was like, the thing was is I was too afraid to use them when they mattered because it was like if it was a boss fight, I was like, well, I can't use my bombs now because if I still die, then I've just lost all those bombs.
Hmm.
Which is why I would have loved, yeah, if you die during a boss or something, you should get all your stuff back,
Yeah, but I don't know.
or it should be
I
included
feel
in.
like this
Yeah,
one lent more towards you problem. The fact that you didn't
yeah,
figure
okay.
out the bombs regenerated, Elliot, I think puts
Yeah,
it over
okay.
the
Yeah.
line.
Yeah, okay. Oh, yeah, I'm willing to own that. I'm just like, yeah, okay, this game is not accessible to hoarders like me. That's
Well, yeah, I guess the fact that that's taught to you in the manual, but of course you're never going to read the manual until the very end of the game.
yeah.
It's like very interesting. It's interesting that they would need you to figure things out. And I guess it's a good example of a path where if you don't figure things out in the intended way, you might just never interface with the system that they've put in the game.
Yeah. Like I'm sure there are other people who completely missed other systems. I mean, well, we just talked about I also missed the parry system, but like yeah,
Yeah.
there are probably people who
Maybe
like
you just missed a lot of this.
yeah.
Did you
Yeah.
like find the fairies and the trophies and stuff, Elliot? I mean, what
What?
did you miss? Yeah. Anyway, the
There's a
game's over
sword.
after you ring the two bells. So I did
Yeah.
that.
But anyway, let's move on to the next slide, which
Mhm.
So,
I can do. Why is that not going to the next slide? So this was talking about boss fights.
Okay.
So I love the boss design in this game, because I felt like each boss utilized a different aspect of the game.
Mm.
Like each one had such a different focus. I guess I'm really a big fan of bosses that like force you to play a specific way or use a specific part of the gameplay, and I felt like the
Mm.
bosses in this one all did that really well.
Well, what do you like?
Ironically, the boss I think did that the worst, and I like the least is the one that's on screen right
Well,
now.
that's why because I pulled this one up specifically when I saw you making that point, being like, I don't know if I agree. And here's my counterexample. What did you like? Talk me through some of the bosses and what you liked, what you felt like each of them was requiring you to do. I
Sure.
suppose.
So the Garden Knight is the obvious one because the Garden Knight was the one for me that was like, oh, you have to worry about your stamina when fighting, and like that was the first time
Hmm.
that I took a couple of deaths before I realized that what was happening is I was running out of stamina
Sure.
and I
Yeah.
needed to take some bits where when the Garden Knight was like, just sitting there idle, some of them I just had to rest and recover stamina, and other ones I had to like go for the throat. Because my
Yeah.
instinct with a boss is to just go for the throat every single time that's not doing anything.
Yeah. I mean, I guess like needing to learn that stamina is a resource that you need to actually pay attention to.
Yes.
Again, a very kind of Dark Soulsy mentality, I suppose.
Yeah. And I think the Garden I just hadn't encountered that in this game until the Garden Knight. And then I
Well,
think
I
the
think that's just
Librarian.
because the Garden Knight is the first real boss,
Yes.
right? Like,
Oh,
I
I
don't think
think
that's specific to them as a boss, though.
yeah. Maybe not. I guess it's just it's the first big enemy you fight where it's going to become a problem. So
Mm,
but then like I am thinking of like the Librarian as well was the one that like would float around, and it was just after you'd
right.
gotten the magic orb. And so it was like the first ranged combat one, especially since it would summon enemies that would give you magic. So it was like the
Yeah.
first one where I really treated it as a ranged boss.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Um, and then it felt like is it the scavenger boss, the one
Hmm.
underground and the at the bottom of the quarry?
Hmm.
that's the one that's like it almost has the same move set that you do. It's just like a big chonky version of you, and so it
Yeah.
really forces you to like play against yourself by like actually dodging it, and then like it has a really interesting environment that you can hide behind and stuff. So like I don't know, it just felt like each boss really brought out a different aspect of the combat to me, with the exception of the siege engine, which from memory I just found the best way to fight it was to just kind of hide underneath it and like
Stand underneath it, yeah.
try and run around behind it.
I think I agree. I liked a lot of the bosses, and I liked the final air fight. I think you took something away from yourself, Elliot, by not trying to beat that. It's a challenging but very rewarding
I didn't
fight.
realize the true ending. Like what happened was I lost to the air, and I was like, oh, is this really it?
Well, it's kind of a forced loss, right? At the first time you
And
lose.
so then I like recovered myself.
Oh, I see.
Went
And then
back
you lost to them
fight.
again.
Yeah, and then like lost, and so sort of Googled it because I was like, oh, is there more to do? Like, am I meant to be getting stronger? And found out that there was a true ending. So like I sort of went off and did that. It needed a bit of help, but eventually solved the golden path and all that. And then came back, and I was expecting to get the true ending after beating the boss.
Right.
just I
You
got
just
the
didn't
true
have to
ending,
fight
and then
it.
I read about it, and I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
So I kind of like because I half spoiled myself on the true ending.
Yeah, fair enough.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I agree. I liked most of the boss fights, with the exception of the siege engine in the Eastern Vault, which was just stand under it and smack it. And there were a few times I felt like the boss scavenger and the air fight, to beat them, I kind of did this thing where I kind of forced them up against the edges of their respective arenas, and then they'd kind of get stuck in slightly janky movement patterns for a bit, which would give me some time to smack on them before I before they kind of broke out of it after a bit and continued on, which was maybe a bit cheesy. I don't know.
No, like, well, it is, but also like the amount of actual Zelda games and stuff where you can do that.
Of course, yeah, that's very video gamey. Yes, trying to find the right, and it wasn't like the air would get stuck up against the arena. I'd smack it for a bit, and then it would free itself. So its AI kind of had the ability to free itself, which then makes you think, okay, so they intentionally let you cheese on it a little bit, like you which I guess gives you that, yeah,
you get like a reward for your cheese strat, and you still have to like pull it off. Like
yes, true, yeah, you're right. Good bosses. They were very fun combat trials for sure.
I think I enjoyed the combat in this game the most during the boss fights, which is I actually would say in most games I feel the opposite. Usually, bosses.
Oh, interesting.
I find as a test of combat, often I have a lot of games where I would say I hate boss design. Like Metroid Prime is one of the worst. Metroid Prime is one of my favorite games of all time, but their idea of a boss is just give it so much health that you have to do the right thing for 10 minutes, not 2. Like,
hey, speaking about how Metroid is the worst game series, let's go on to the next slide. Can we talk about bad Metroidvanias? You want to go to 153.14 on this one, Elliot? Yeah.
It used to work back when we did it in the day. I don't know why that broke.
That's not going to be the grappling hook, is it? No. It's another plant that I don't know what it does. We'll get to it.
So you made it to the ruined atoll and you still hadn't figured out how to upgrade.
So I went to the ruined atoll before I went to the Western Forest. So I got stuck trying to find the second bell in like
interesting
in the ruined atoll.
Okay, that's fun.
And so the second bell, I went to the ruined atoll and was playing around there for a long time. I think so. Yeah, can't remember. So I was there like very early on in the game and played a lot there, and I found it so frustrating. Like this game, I think has examples of good and bad discovery in it. You know what I mean? Like, the moment when you figure out, when you're taught to pray is like one of the peak moments for me in this game of you have now unlocked or learned a new thing that you could have known the entire time.
Yes.
And you've now just been revealed it as like a little treat.
It's very Outer Wilds esque of
Uh-huh.
like Infovania. Like, yeah,
Yeah, exactly. Right. Like that's brilliant.
yeah,
And maybe for a slightly worse example of this, like when you figure out that this specific pattern of 3 flowers on the ground is always put right in front of a hidden door. I don't know if you had that experience, but
yes,
that to me is another thing of like, oh, I've learned a new thing. That one was better in some ways because it's never explicitly taught to you by the game, so it's much more of a learned
like, yeah.
observation. But also frustrating because I just kind of accidentally opened a bunch of hidden doors without ever realizing, and then finally somebody spelled it out in chat as I was streaming through. Anyway, that's like you've learned a new thing and you now can apply it, and it will give you, you know,
Yeah,
a new skill, and that's so satisfying. And then in contrast to that, the thing that happens in fucking Metroid games, which is the worst, is here's a locked door, and you can see it's a locked door, and you know what the key is that you need to get through it, but you don't have access to it. And that is just shit. Like, it's just bad. You know, it's just frustrating, and it's
yeah.
never fun.
So to be clear, like for you, yeah, this is a fundamental distaste for the Metroidvania format that you have when it's obvious like this.
When
I
it's
guess is the
done
caveat.
badly, right?
Yes.
Like
Yeah.
the idea of getting a new skill and then being able to access new areas that you kind of didn't know about previously is great. When that
Yeah.
skill is information, when that skill is something that you could have been doing but you didn't know how, rather than you hadn't got this specific item yet. Like,
Well,
fuck that shit.
in normal Metroidvanias, it's always the item thing, I guess, though.
Yes, in Metroid games, yes, because
Yeah,
Metroid games are terrible. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Well, this is fine. Like, I kind of disagree, but this is like, I'm sure we'll cover a roguelike eventually, and
Do
then I'll be
you
on the
think
other
it's
side of this.
fun, Elliot? Do you think it's fun when you walk along and you see a collectible on the other side of a gap, and that gap has a clear grappling hook point in it, and so you think, "Oh, great, I'm going to get a grappling hook at some point, and I just have to remember or stumble upon this thing
Yes.
again to get that collectible."
Yeah,
Why is that fun?
it
It's
is.
not a
It is easy to overdo. Don't get me wrong. I've had some Metroidvanias I've played where I was like, "There's too much of this,"
Mhm.
but I do like it when there's like, oh, I like to keep a little list as I'm playing of like, oh, okay, these are the places I need to go back when I have this ability. I do agree that it is a much better experience when it's not incredibly obvious at a first glance what the missing ability is.
yes,
So
yes.
the hooks in this game, I'll actually 100% agree with you because you see them and it's just immediately like, oh, okay, so I want to
That's a
grapple.
grappling point. I have to just come
Whereas,
back here after I have a grapple. So annoying.
especially because it's an orb already and it's frog themed, I think if they'd made them look like a weird sticky thing or something,
Hmm. Hmm.
like something that wasn't immediately grapple hook coded, you
Yeah.
might have been like, what
Well,
are these things?
they had the perfect example of it in the turrets, right? Which are grappling points, but are
Yes, no, you're
also
right. Yeah, the
enemies.
turrets are great.
And
Yeah,
so they're already disguised grappling hook points. And so it's like, well, okay, like just have those.
yeah,
Those are perfect. And instead, they made the game actively frustrating by putting grapples. I was seeing grappling hook points. I mean, you see them the entire game, of course, as soon as you see these hooks or these tuning forks that are like, I guess, like
yeah.
fragments of these turrets or whatever. I don't know. As soon as you see those, you go, oh, great, I'm going to get a grappling hook. And now I just have to wait for the point in the game where I can do something. I find that so frustrating.
Yeah. No,
Yeah.
it's interesting because I like it is to a degree just like a core aspect of the genre of Metroidvania, so to speak. You know what I mean? Like it is just like
Mm.
you like that is sort of an expectation, I guess, going in because like Hollow Knight had some stuff like that too, obviously. Like
Yeah.
Hollow Knight's another Metroidvania, but like I think Hollow Knight did a really good job of like it because it's really unique enough. It wasn't just always as simple as an obvious grappling hook. It didn't bother you
Yes.
as much.
Yes, I agree.
Um,
Yeah, totally. I don't know, and I can kind of excuse if it's like for example, the jump in this game when you get the jump
with
dash.
the dash, yeah,
Yeah, and I was like, I kind of suspected I was going to get a jump at a few
yes,
points, but I didn't really ever fully know exactly what it would look like. And so when I got it, I was like, okay, this is cool and kind of unique enough. And I'm not like expecting exactly what it is enough that I can use it as a new traversal
yes.
mechanism that will allow me to get to new places, right?
I actually
The
had the suspicion. I was expecting the whole time to get the ability to jump down ledges. I was expecting
Oh
to get
yeah,
like padded boots or something. That was like,
yeah.
So yeah, but you're right. There was like enough ambiguity. Yeah, I think that's a good example of like one where like I think that's a solid Metroidvaniaism because it opens up a lot of
Yes.
new pathways.
Yes.
Um, in a way that doesn't feel like like it is a bit annoying when it's just a memory list.
The grappling hook was just terrible. Like, I actually hated the fact that there was a grappling hook in this game, so telegraphed, because it just was so frustrating to me. I spent a lot of time in the Ruined Atoll, and you're walking around these hook points, and you're just like, well, this is a grappling hook. What am I doing? Like, why? Give me the grappling hook. The first 3 streams, I would just constantly say every time I opened a chest, is this going to be the grappling hook? No? Okay. Like, it was so annoying.
What's funny though is I'm pretty sure the majority of the graph hooks, very specific, obvious ones, are in the Frog's domain, which is where you get it.
Sure,
So,
yeah.
and you went there early. So, which is just highlighting the other issue of Metroidvanias, particularly obtuse ones with Tunic, which is you can just end up in the wrong fucking place.
Yeah.
So it's like those two things kind of combined to make it such an awful experience for you. But it's like because it's not as bad, I don't think.
Well,
If you don't
there
end up in
are
the ruined
other
atoll first.
points. There are other points.
There are,
As you
but
go
like
up to the top of the mountain, there's like tuning forks and stuff. Like,
yeah, no, 100%. Like it definitely, it would have still been a thing, but it's like I can imagine if you're in this place and you're lost and you're frustrated, you're seeing grappling hooks everywhere. Of course, like it's gonna magnify that issue.
yeah, yeah.
Um,
Anyway, I just think it's such a bad aspect of Metroidvanias. Do it better. You can do it better. Tunic did do it better at points and then fucked it up again.
No, I think it's valid to say that like it's so good when it's done well, but it's so easy to do poorly. And it is very tricky to do it Infovania style. Like the fact that praying takes I think it's like 4 seconds or something, like is perfect because what idiot is gonna and there's undoubtedly a few, but like how are you gonna find that on your own? You know what I mean? Like
Yeah, totally.
But it is like you could have just done that. Yeah.
Yeah, and I do think the turrets are a perfect example of how they could have done the grappling hooks better.
Yeah.
Anyway,
No, it's like, I
just
know,
bitter.
if we cover any other Metroidvanias at any point, or I do like Silk Song or something, this will be an interesting one to come back to, so we can like dissect it more. Because I don't think it came up in Game Club, but like I think there's something it's hard to do right, and it can be frustrating, but it's so good when it works.
I think it is almost even just a linear function of the more obviously you are missing a tool, the more frustrating it is. Like, if it's not too obvious, even if it's kind of obvious, like, oh, there's a ledge here that I can't quite reach. Oh, what's up with that? Like,
yeah, well, it's not that you're missing. It's when you're missing a tool that you can tell what that tool's going to be.
Yes, yes.
Like when you see someone, you're like, I can't reach this yet. I must get some item that allows me to come back here later, but I don't know what it is. That's more okay.
The one that was always the worst to me in Metroid was you go through a door and you're like, oh, I'm in a hot zone and I'm taking damage from heat. I know I need a heat-proof suit. Okay, I just have to wait until I get that. Like,
like those ones always piss me off as well because it's not like an ability. It's just like
it's just a thing. Yeah,
yeah.
That's so annoying. Anyway, shall we move on to parts of the game that I loved?
Yeah.
I loved the puzzles in this game.
They're good, aren't they?
Just brilliant. Yeah. Like the final, I think from like, well, I guess I'd say the final maybe 4 hours of gameplay up until about my final 5 minutes of gameplay was peak. I loved it.
Yeah, it's... And there's something to be said for the fact that like it wouldn't land the same if you're just playing an outright puzzle game from the start. Like if you're playing something like Lingo or...
I think a perfect example to compare to is the game Chants of Sonar. I don't know if you've played that one, Elliot, but it's a game where you're decoding. It's a game that is completely based around decoding languages, right? Okay. You're going through these societies and you have to learn their languages to solve the puzzles. And that it's a great game, but the fact that it doesn't have a different game that it's wrapped around and it's very straightforwardly presented to you as learn this language, you know? I don't know, like it hits different. And while I love Chants of Sonar, Tunic is going to stick with me for a lot longer because of the, I don't know, twist it plays on you. Suddenly you're in a language puzzle game.
Yeah. I'm again jumping ahead a bit, and like I think I want to talk about more when we come up to that slide. But like I think it's because of the way this game invites you into it. Like, it feels like a hidden
Yes.
thing you're uncovering, whereas Chancellor Sinard, as you said, that's the point of the game. It's kind of obligatory. You're solving the puzzles
Yes.
to
Yes.
progress. Whereas Tunic almost has this sense of like, I am uncovering a hidden secret. I am the detective, the anthropologist, like whatever. Which like, one of my little things is I think the more a game makes you feel like a detective or an investigator, the better the game is.
Mhm.
And I think Tunic nails that.
I think it's really clever as well in that it almost builds this natural hint system into the game where
Yes.
as you're getting stuck doing one thing, you know there are other threads for you to tug on that will give you clues. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
decoding more bits of the manual or poring over it or looking through the maps to like
Yeah.
figure out like, oh, there might be a secret thing hidden here. Like it gives you this like, yeah, like the manual almost is the detective's
Yes.
corkboard with the bits of string or whatever that lets you dive into it deeper and deeper to solve puzzles if you're getting, running into problems. And I think that's just brilliant. Like it's so,
Yeah. And,
it works so well.
and I love how they slowly escalate it. Like one of the first pages you get is that page that sort of like basically just tells you the order of the first section of the game, which is like
Hmm.
to ring the two bells. First, you need to get the key to go to the old house.
Yeah.
It's sort of, I love that as an introduction to, you just need to figure out how things work from this manual. But the first couple are a bit obvious, and then you like, the more you look at the manual, the more you're like, fuck does this little bit mean? And like you'll come back to it,
Yes.
or you'll get a new page, and you're like, oh, like yeah, I
Yeah.
love those moments. Like, and like, oh, the moment where I figured out what the Holy Cross
Hmm.
was so like, I was like, that's so fucking funny. Like, I was like, I love that.
So what is the Holy Cross, Elliot? Is
It's the
it the
D-pad.
D-pad? It
Yeah,
is, right? Okay,
yeah.
good. Yeah. It's good.
And it's
It's
on the
funny.
shield, like, because I just thought the shield when I first started playing the game, I was like, oh, that's a fun reference to Zelda 1 back when Link had a Christian cross on his shield, and then Nintendo undid that because obviously, like, they try to avoid real world shit like that now. But like,
Yeah.
I just thought it was a funny reference to that. But like, no, it's like yeah. I love the idea of just like calling something like the D-pad the Holy Cross and having that moment of like, oh fuck, like, because I was like early on, I was like, I wish I could like put more items on the D-pad or something.
Mm.
Why isn't it used? And
Yeah. Yeah, it is very clever, isn't it? Yeah, God, I love like the fairy hunting and the trophy hunting stuff and the golden path.
yeah.
Just so peak. I loved it. Except, well, I guess we'll have to talk about it. The last 5 minutes of this game to me were so disappointing. The last 5 minutes I played, so got all the fairies, solved the golden path, got most of the trophies, and the final trophy I got was the one where the clue is like the softer. It's the one where you dunk the thing in the water, right?
Yeah.
And then the clue that it reveals to you is like the softest feather collected 11 times or something. Just kind of like a poorly worded puzzle. And then so I had chat help me with that. And then I went. So obviously, oh God, it's so annoying. You do the fairies, you do the Holy Cross, you get this thing that's like collect all these trophies and then go into the void and you'll get to speak with the whatever 12 ancient beings or whatever it is.
Yeah.
And so I'm like building up to this final moment of the puzzle and I go through and then it's like this ARG ending. And so I'm like, okay, an ARG, that's a little disappointing, but I'll just go and Google it and read, I'm sure the community has solved it by now. And then no, they haven't. It's just like this weird infinite ARG thing. And it's just like, oh, okay. Well, that's a frustrating, like, I felt like I was being punished for engaging with the post-game puzzle content. It was so frustrating. It put me in mind of this movie. There's this movie, The Devil Inside, a horror movie, kind of low-budget horror movie.
Yeah.
And at the very end of the movie, it ends with a title card that says, go to this website to find out the true story. And then that website reveals to you the ending of the plot through an ARG. And that movie bombed, Elliot, rightfully so.
Yeah.
Because of course it's a bad idea, because just conceptually, like, the piece of media that you've created should be self-contained, right? Like, I think it's fine to have an ARG for people who want to dive in deeper. And the fact that ARG reveals there's a whole secret musical language built into the game, like, that's very cool. But that shouldn't be the culmination shouldn't be now go do this other thing that's never been solved and maybe isn't even designed to be solved. Like, fuck, that's so shitty.
I yeah, I mean, I think there's a general problem in category here, which is rewards for 100% in games. Because
Mm-hmm.
I have had so many games where there's a big locked door and you basically need to 100% the game to open that door, and you do it. And the thing is, it's always disappointing because you've already done the whole game.
Yeah,
Like,
well, but it just needs to be congratulations, you've done it.
yes,
You know, that's all it needs to be. Make
that's
it,
fair.
it can be an achievement. It can be a little, it can be like a ghost that says, wow, you freed me or whatever. Like, it doesn't have to be tangibly, rewarding, but just put something there that is like you've done it, well done. And
Yeah,
not
no,
something there that's like hey, now go do this other thing. Like, fuck, that was so annoying.
yeah, that's fair. I admire it as an attempt to offer more to people who really went the whole way through.
Yeah,
But
but
I see your point. No,
yeah.
I totally agree. Because the thing is, I kind of had the same thing. Like because I played this early on in Game Pass. I remember sort of going through that, and I needed so much help towards the end for the treasures. Like,
Oh, really?
yeah, that I'd kind of already knew that was coming. So I guess that was why it didn't
Mm,
affect me the same way. But like, yeah, I think it's. I mean, it's kind of the same. Like, I did have that same experience just when I first finished the manual and did the Golden
mm.
Path, and then like not having a final boss. So I was a bit like, oh, the game
Well,
is over.
no, I liked that. I mean, the ending of the Golden Path is you get the title card of the first page of the manual. I'm like,
Yeah,
oh, that's cool. Like
yeah. I know, but
that
then
works neatly.
yeah, no, again, and this may be just because of how I do it, but I was set up that means now you can get the
Oh,
true
now you
ending.
get to fight the boss
And
again.
well, so then I
Yeah.
was like, oh, cool, let me go do the true ending, and the true ending was there's actually no boss fight. The game is just over now.
Mm.
Yeah,
Yeah, I don't know. I think the fumble of not letting the victory lap of the game be a victory lap really just left such a sour taste in my mouth.
yeah. I think that's fair, and to a degree, it's like this was such an ambitious game, and this just may be a swing that didn't land. You know what I mean? But
Yeah,
like, there were
yeah,
so many
that's
big
well,
swings in this game.
but yeah, potentially. I think the fact that this ARG that they've done has never been solved or isn't really intended to be solved, or like I was kind of reading up about it in my frustration. I was reading up, and,
Yeah.
and the creator was giving this interview of being like, "Oh, there's stuff in there. I don't think it will ever be finished, and I don't think everyone will ever find the secrets." And like, that's fine to put into your game, but then don't have the ending don't have the reward for your game be this unfinishable quest.
I don't know.
Like, fuck that
It's
shit.
that's a commentary on life. It's a metaphor. Yeah, no.
I mean, I can kind of respect it if that's the intent, but I didn't like it.
Like that, like it would be funny if the intent was your reward for solving all the puzzles was more unsolvable puzzles. That's kind of puzzles. That's kind of a funny bit, but like,
Yeah,
in the right with the right lead up, like you've got to set that up right. Anyway, yeah.
yeah,
I guess, yeah, I don't know. It's just there's so much to love though. Like, because for me, I think the Golden Path, like getting through that door, felt so fucking good.
yeah.
Like,
The Golden Path is an excellent puzzle, isn't it? It's so perfect, and it's a perfect example of, again, like recontextualizing all the information you've had,
yes,
right? Like going
well, that
back and
moment where you
seeing,
realize what's happening, and then you start going through the whole manual and finding
yeah,
the little golden
finding all of the
paths
little golden
was
paths. Yeah,
like I loved it.
yeah. I'd already seen a few of them, and I'd been like, "Oh, what's that? What's this meant to mean?" And then going back and there's a bit where you translate and it says there's a secret hidden on every page, even this one. And then I'm like, "Whoa!" And then you kind of look through and you start seeing them all, and you're like, "Oh shit! I get what's being asked of me," and it's so awesome, like so satisfying, fantastic.
Um, I do, yeah. I mean, I'm just kind of bringing this up as like a general point thing because like it's universal in puzzle games. Like there's this thing that happens in puzzle games, which is just you might get stuck.
Mm.
And so I had one. I had the opposite problem to you. I could not find my way into the ruined atoll, and that was one
Oh,
of the points I had to Google help for the game when I was playing it.
that's so interesting.
And what was really funny about that as well is the first Google hit back then was actually for the ladder, so I still didn't know about fast travel.
Mm.
So I didn't figure out fast travel because I watched a few of your streams, so I feel like you caught on earlier than I did, but I didn't figure it out till you go to the library and
Mhm.
there's the bit, where you power up that fast travel
Yes.
panel
Yeah.
and the thing, and that was like, oh, I must be able to interact with this, and I tried praying on it. I was like, oh fuck, there was fast travel here the whole time. Whereas I think arguably you're meant to figure out fast travel to get into the ruined atoll.
Yes, I think as soon as you beat the Western Forest Guardian, you learn praying, and that's where you're meant to figure out fast traveling. I
Yes,
think.
where I didn't make that link from praying at the obelisks to
Yeah,
praying on that
on
yellow
those yellow
square.
squares. Yeah, interesting.
And like that's the thing, like there are situations like that come up in puzzle games where to a degree it's just a bit of a coin flip. You know what I mean? Whether
Yeah,
you're gonna
yeah.
connect two dots.
Mm.
And like this brings me back to my intentionally fotzed design point, where I think if there is a game that is designed to always make sure eventually you get hints, so you will connect all those points, you lose the difficulty because like eventually I know, like, I'm just going to give in. Maybe this is more a statement about me, but I'm like, eventually I'm just going to look up the answer or take the hint or whatever. So I want puzzle games to not necessarily have the hints. It's just, it's so unfortunate when you miss an obvious dot like that and then you have to go Google it and like lose.
Yeah, it's so interesting to think about because it is unfortunate, of course it is, but also
It's unavoidable.
it's unavoidably part
Yes.
of the design of the game, and you can't fix it without changing the game.
I'm just bringing this up as a bit of a statement on like puzzle games in general. As I'm just like, I wish there was a way around like having people not notice things and like miss an obvious solution.
So
Without,
something similar happened to me where I learned the fairy seeking spell, and I used it in one or two rooms and it didn't do anything. And then I used it in the Western Forest and it led me to a fairy. But
wait, you could sleep in that bed? Sorry.
Yeah, you sleep in the bed to change from day to night. So I in the Western Forest.
You go back to daytime?
Yeah, man. You never did that?
No.
You really missed a lot of this game, huh? I used the fairy seeking spell and it led me to a fairy, but I'd misread the manual and I was thinking the fairy seeking spell was leading me to like the secret meeting place of the fairies. And so I was like, okay, this leads me here. This is where I have to come back to once I've got all the fairies. That's great. I'll do that. And then I never used the fairy seeking spell again. And so I was kind of like struggling through finding these fairies until someone eventually in my chat said, why aren't you using the spell? And I was like, wait, what? And I tried it again and it led me somewhere different. I was like, oh, fuck, I've totally misunderstood this.
Yeah, that's a perfect example of what I'm talking about of like, this kind of unavoidable puzzle game problem where if people miss two dots or make an incorrect assumption, it can be really hard to deprogram them.
Yeah, it must be so frustrating for a designer to face that situation and they have to tweak things and face the question of, do I tweak things here or not? Because is this person just the 1% of people that's going to fuck this up? And sorry, mate, you're just going to have to deal with it. Like, I don't know.
Yeah, well, because wait, you're right. That's the thing is by the time you like fix it, you've created a situation where, for me, you've lost some of the puzzle essence.
Yes, exactly.
A common example I see thrown around online a lot is in the latest God of War game. If you're in a puzzle room and you don't solve it after like 2 minutes, basically the characters just start like out loud saying the solution.
Yeah.
And I'm not inherently opposed to that as a mechanic, but you can't switch it off, which is definitely I'm against. And as well as not being able to switch it off, like you also can't control the timing. Like for me, I want a button that I have to push, which is me giving up. You know what I mean?
Yes, sure. You want to talk to the boy, and then he says, "Oh, I've got an idea, Dad. How about this?" Or whatever. Yeah.
And I do prefer when those systems are in game. I feel like if I have to Google a solution to a puzzle, I feel like
no, you don't want to go out of game for sure.
Yeah.
You're breaking kayfabe to Google something for sure.
Yeah. So I love it when games include a bit of a hint system. I love it when there's a cost for that, like when it's like pay to get a hint or like blah blah blah. And like I don't know exactly how you do that for something like Tunic. Like I think Tunic may not be possible to do that. So it's like it's not necessarily criticism of this game, but it's just like, yeah, like I'd love if there was some sort of thing you could do where it's like, I will pay this resource for you to give me some extra information, please. Like translate a
Yeah.
couple of words or something in the manual for me.
I don't know. I feel like the manual is a perfect way to do that. Of just you know that there's more information available for you at some point. You just have to put in the work to get to it.
Yeah, and try
And
and
maybe
connect
if you get
dots.
stuck at a point that's early enough that you don't have that info, then that is frustrating. But I thought the manual was a great version of that because it is the here's more info. And you don't. I didn't translate the manual until quite near
Like,
the end of the game, but you
yeah.
could try and figure some bits and pieces out, I'm sure.
Yeah, I mean, it uses enough the occasional English words and like symbolism and arrows and other page numbers. I think does a good enough job at that. It's just again, this is more running into that misconception problem that you can hit. Which, I don't know. I think what I'm really asking for is I think what we all need is our own chat to tell us things like use the berry
that's what
spell.
Twitch chat's for. Totally. Yeah. Well, should we talk about the language translation? Because that to me is I think the peak of this game. And it's something that I didn't even do in game. I had a big GIMP file that I worked through. I meticulously took screenshots of every single page and then I annotated them with my translations.
That's so fun.
Oh God, it was so much fun to do. I loved it. I loved it the process of figuring out the language and kind of putting it all together, just delightful.
Now, so this is gonna be fun, Ruben, because I've been specifically waiting to tell you this on the stream. I never figured that out. I never translated the language.
You never put in the effort to translate
Nope.
it. That's so crazy to me. It's like, did you like look up just
pretty much? I looked up a translated
manual?
version of the manual. Once I figured out it could be translated, I spent about 5 minutes trying, gave up.
That's horrible.
And then
I can't believe you did that earlier. The way you chose to interact with this game is so bizarre to me, and I think that's just because you like Zelda games and you don't like puzzle games as much.
I mean, it's because I played this like when it came out on Game Pass, and I think it was just a little game I wanted to play as like, oh, a cool little indie Zelda game. Like, you're right. And I think I went in and...
you didn't go into it wanting to play it as a puzzle game.
No, and I think this is also why I really wanted to do it on We Heart Games, because I knew you streaming it and like dedicating the month to it, you would engage with it more in this way. Whereas I do feel like I was sort of like, oh, well, you're not actually meant to figure this translation out, so I'll just read the translated version of the manual online.
I can't believe that. That's like, and then you've cut off the best part of this game for yourself, Elliot.
I just didn't. Yeah, like it didn't occur to me that was sort of a possible reasonable expectation for somebody to do. And I guess since like back then I didn't know about games like Lingo or like Chance of Sinnoh, like it just like that was beyond the realm. I was like, oh, well, you're meant to use a guide for this. Like in my head.
That's
and I'm
so
only going
crazy.
back 2 years. Like, my relationship with games has changed a lot in the last like 2 to 3 years. But yeah, like it is funny. Like it didn't occur to me that was something you were kind of a normal person was expected to do.
Do you not see this page 54 and think this is trying to tell you how to translate like the alphabet of this game?
Yeah.
And then you just thought, don't want to.
Yeah, pretty much. I regret it. Like I'm on your side. Like I regretted it so much afterwards. Like when I solved the Golden Path and stuff using like the translated manual from somebody else and stuff, I was like, would have been so cool if you could translate it yourself. And that was a big part. I was like hoping you would do exactly this when I put this down as our first game. Is I was like, I'm hoping Ruben will actually translate it, because I know you're better at that sort of puzzle than me as well. So I was like, he will probably have the confidence to actually give it a crack and do it. But yeah, I never learned how to read them.
Crazy. I can't believe that. Like I can't conceptualize being presented with such a delightful puzzle and then being like, oh no, I'll just look up the answer.
Half of the reason, it is true. I guess half of the reason is like, I love this game and I wanted to talk about it a lot, but the other half of the reason is I regret how I interacted with this game, and I knew that doing it for We Heart Games would mean you would not have that experience, and I wanted to vicariously live through you.
Getting people to experience the horrible ways that you sometimes interact with games. That really has been the theme of this stream, Elliot. I mean, fuck, you never throwing bombs and figuring out they regenerate. You never changing between day and night, and you not decoding the language. Like, there's just so many parts of this game you never interacted with.
You don't need to switch through between day and night. I mean,
yeah, I guess you don't. I'd never really considered that because that was a great moment of discovery to me of, oh, I can sleep in this bed, of course.
Yeah, I don't know why I never tried that. Tell you what, like, yeah, I'm just wondering if it would have made it easy. I found it really annoying. So when you're in your ghost form, and you know how you have to
Yeah.
go to the heroes' graves,
Yeah.
how did you go getting to the one in the quarry? Where you have to go up through the mountain pass.
It's in the manual. So the manual tells you
Oh, I missed that.
there's a.
Okay.
So I had gone through that pathway when I'd gone to the quarry the first time. I'd gone through the top path and found it went to the mountain, and then I'd forgotten about it. And then when I was thinking, oh, I've got to get to the quarry, and I looked at the map of the quarry, the manual said like there's a path to the mountain pass, and I was like, oh yeah, that's right. I went through that path one time, and I can go through there.
Yeah.
That was the experience.
Yeah. Okay. Because I went back through to the one entrance I knew about and it wasn't there, and then I immediately Googled it. So again, that's probably just me being impatient.
There was another example, a great example of that on the map of the fast travel area. There's like this bit in the bottom right corner that shows you that you can warp to the Eastern hero's grave. But it's not like on the main part of the map. It's kind of often behind a text box. Like, fuck, there's so many cool little bits hidden in this map. I thought it was fantastic.
Yeah, actually, is that? Yeah.
Well, but
the slide we're up to, so that's perfect. First of all, I did just want to.
Yeah, my map translation file ended up being about 13 gigabytes of screenshots, and it was horrible. So don't do that. But yeah,
love that. Yeah. So I guess. Yeah, I wanted to talk about the maps in this game as well, because there's so much to love about them. Obviously, like stylistically, they're some of the most interesting maps, and I was so happy when I figured out early on in the game that it was putting the little fox where I was on the map. So like, they're still useful as game maps.
Yeah, fantastic.
Yeah, and then like I think then the latter half of the game starts to do really, really fun things. So I added the cathedral one to this slide after you put the overworld in there, because the cathedral one is so fun because it's a shit map. Like, it's sideways, and most of the time you're spending in the cathedral is going back and forth on the axis that is not shown on this map. And I actually I loved that. Like, once I figured it out, I was like, fucking bastards. Like, they
well, and the cathedral hides this secret. I mean, if you can even call it a secret, this path that is marked very clearly on the map, but you don't know how to get into until you translate the manual. So good.
Like, I just, this to me is like as if the map idea was, because it was already it's the maps from the manual. That's cool. They actually put the fox on it. That's cool. There's so many little Easter eggs and details on all of the maps. Like, on the Overlord one here, the little question marks that all the teleporting things in is one of those ones where in retrospect you're like, yes, okay, that's good to know. And then I think to take it to the next level with ones like the cathedral, where then they start to use the mechanic on itself by having the axis be intentionally poorly done, I think is so good. And also the game has been preparing you for it, because this game gets a lot of value out of its like isometric viewpoint. Like,
yes, oh yeah, for sure.
Like, I don't know if we've already talked about it, but like the amount of times you would just find out about a shortcut that was there the whole time it was just well hidden was it worked on me every
just
single time
by the camera perspective.
Yes,
like very, very good.
And like just like the output was always in an intention, like you're like, well, I never would have found that. And it's like, yes, that's the point, is you're only meant to find it on the way back. And every single time I was like, no way. And you'd like pop out and you'd be like, oh cool, that's my shortcut the next time I need to go this way. Like, it worked on me every time. But like, so the game had already been using the isometric viewpoint so well for that, and then to like sort of take that to the next level, things like the cathedral map, I was just like, you already took one of the coolest things I've ever seen and made it even cooler. Like, I loved it.
I had a number of times I would have moments where I would find something cool in game, then go back and look at the map and see that it had been marked on there and I had just not noticed. The amount of times that happened, it was so fantastic. And then, of course, that's like training you to be like paying more attention to things on the map. And really clever.
Yeah.
And the fact that the trophies are always hidden by these like pen drawings on it, like, fuck, it's so clever.
Yeah, it's I don't like, I just, everything about the maps in this, and also just like the map, like from the map design
Yes.
perspective. I thought it was masterful the way they often curved back on themselves. Like it felt
Hmm.
quite
Hmm.
natural. It like there have been games structured like this. Like some of the Ratchet and Clank games jump out to me as games where like I'm like, oh, I see. So we're circling, so I can go back to the start. Like I can see the pattern what we're doing here. Whereas
Yeah.
Tunic, it was very natural feeling in the way where I'd just be like, oh, great, here's a little
Yeah.
rope, and I can drop that down, and now I can come straight back up here, and like this makes sense. Like it would, yeah,
Yeah.
well done maps, and then the maps in the manual to navigate them. But like, yeah, it was so good.
Yeah.
Like, there's a
Yeah.
lot to love about this game, but I think the map, the level design is probably right up there. Like, I think I really loved the size of the locations. Like, I sometimes feel games like when you go back and play some Zelda games, in particular, I'm
Mm.
thinking sometimes the overworld feels too big and the dungeons feel too small compared to when I
Mm.
was a kid. I thought each area in this game was the perfect size for me to like just wrap my head around it and not get too overwhelmed. Like
Mm.
they weren't too labyrinthian that I was just getting frustrated and lost and confusing, but they also didn't
Yeah.
feel too small and simple. Yeah,
Yeah,
big
I
fan.
agree. The areas and the areas were all quite visually distinctive and kind of
Yes,
there were great shortcuts. Like compared to maybe even something like a Dark Souls, where even though you unlock shortcuts, you never really can have a strong mental map, or at least I
mm,
didn't when I was playing that game, that let me feel like I knew where I was going when I wanted to go between two places.
yeah,
As compared to Tunic, I always felt like, oh, I need to go to the Western Forest. Okay, I'm here. Okay, maybe I'll take that teleporter and go that way, or I'll take
yeah,
this route and go that way. Like that always
yeah,
was very, very. I think that's a good marker of when a game's world design works well, is when you can keep that mental map
yeah.
fairly accurate in your head so that you don't feel lost.
Yeah, and I'd actually turn to Hollow Knight as the first one that popped into my head of one that I didn't quite have that, where I had to
Mm,
use the
mm.
game's map
Yeah.
so often. Like even though yeah, like all the
Yeah, me
areas were
too,
distinctive, and I had
actually.
that general. I think it's like if I had to go from A to B, like I was constantly having to use the map, and then I'd sort of be like, oh yeah,
And
that's
which
right.
entrance do I need to find my way to, and where is that
Yes, yeah,
entrance? Like, yeah,
yeah,
totally.
and
I,
like
I,
like
I had
that
the same
that's
feeling.
fine. It like that's hardly a major complaint I have with Hollow Knight or anything. Like it didn't
No.
ruin the game, but it's like I do love how Tunic made me feel like I'd like go into an area and it's like, yes, I remember how this is laid out. I'm gonna go here, here, here.
Yeah, you feel. I mean, it's the building of that competency that makes games
Yes.
so rewarding to play. Right, building the competency of your mental map of the world is just like it feels great when you nail it, which I think Tunic did.
Yeah. Yeah. Like the thing that I have about Tunic is the parts that I love about it. I love so much. Like I feel
Hmm.
so strongly positively that I do feel like part of me is just like when there are there are problems with this game, but I'm always just like, yeah, it's like that's fine. Like
Yeah,
like the pros are worth it for me.
yeah.
Which leads me perfectly into this slide here, which is like the lore or the story of this game.
Hmm.
Because as used to come up in Game Club, I have like thoughts
You
about.
don't. You're illiterate when it comes to games.
I'm not. I just don't like being forced to read dumb shit. And
Uh-huh.
what I loved about Tunic is they turned engaging with their dumb lore that makes no sense into me feeling like a detective. So it became part of the gameplay. So I loved it. And like
Yeah.
I directly want to contrast to Dark Souls here because to
Hmm.
me it felt like Tunic achieved what people told me Dark Souls did, which is
Mm.
when we were having the disagreements slash arguments with our community about Dark Souls. What pissed me off is it felt like Dark Souls was constantly like telling me not to bother. Like when I would read something and I wouldn't understand most of the words, and it would just like it would just give you some information and you didn't know what it meant, and it felt like the game was like making fun of you for not understanding what it wasn't telling you.
Mm.
And I think Dark Souls, and I said this during the stream, it didn't feel like it was inviting me to understand its lore. It felt like it wanted me to put all this effort in and not really get rewarded. Whereas I think Tunic, because it's in this made up language, it's like there's just that subtle difference in how it's presented that is inviting you in. It's inviting you to be like, okay, there are mysteries here and you're not meant to understand. This isn't quite meant to make sense to you.
Yeah, that's a really interesting distinction. Like knowing that you're not meant to understand it versus like feeling like you're failing for not understanding it.
Yeah.
The fact that Tunic is in a different language adds to it rather than detracts, even though the end result, you not understanding large chunks of text, is the same. That's so fascinating conceptually.
And I think Tunic because it has those bits of English, like we're looking at the pages of the manual there, and there's the occasional English word. And those words are great because those are the words where you can be like, okay, that is an important word that I'm sort
That's
of
a key word.
understand.
Yeah. Sometimes it's even in a different color, so you really know.
And like I think that's part of the difference to me as well. Is like Dark Souls, it was just impossible to know what was important and what wasn't, and I just found that frustrating. Like Tunic works for me because it was like, yeah, like it's inviting you in. It's like intentionally showing you like, here is something you don't understand, and I know it. And then like here are the bits that you do understand, and like here's the information you definitely need, but it separates the information you should care about from the stuff that's just like, ooh, like interesting. And Dark Souls didn't get that for me, so I was just running around being like, I don't understand. I don't know what I'm meant to be retaining and what I'm not. Like,
okay, let's put this to the test, Elliot. Do you remember any of Dark Souls lore?
Well, so ironically, yes, because it's the part that's the same as Tunic's, which is
okay. Talk
you go
me through
kill the old hero who's keeping the universe stuck together.
Mm-hmm. But so then, do you remember more of Tunic's lore beyond that?
No, not really. Like Tunic, like it didn't make sense. I remember reading the translated manual, and I was like, this doesn't really make sense. Like,
but then doesn't that disprove your point, Elliot? Doesn't that just ultimately end up being the same result, regardless of the interaction you had with it?
No, because I enjoyed this one. This
That's
is my
fair.
point. Like, you know, they're both games that I have played in the past. Like you know, like that's true of all games. You know, all a game comes down to is how you're gonna remember your experience with it. And I'm saying Tunic presented a better experience because it invited me to come in and solve this mystery. And even though, yeah, like I'll fully in the end, I kind of ended up in the same point. Tunic was like inviting me in, and I enjoyed it at the time. Whereas Dark Souls, I just remember being like, just like stop throwing dumb words at me.
I think though you might have retained more bits that you aren't remembering, like you know the religious fascination with the Holy Cross, for example.
Oh yeah, no, yeah.
I think is a cornerstone of the lore of Tunic that made its way through to you just because it was unveiled in a good, clever way.
Yeah. Okay. So here's a question I have. Maybe you can answer it because at the time it seemed like the answer was unclear. So there's the goopy purple glowy stuff, and you go down into the ziggurat and you find out that all the obelisks are being made there, and they're being made from like those ghost fox miasma thingies.
Yep.
What is that about?
So I can't answer that 100%, but what I believe it is you know, this group of foxes found the ability to live forever and gained a bunch of acolytes, you know, who are the kind of other people in the cathedral, right?
Yeah.
And those acolytes either are experimented on or eventually become the kind of other foxes that that are put in the ziggurats as part of this, like, you know, the deal to get eternal life is you get it, and you're kind of cursed with it by then having this eternal life and being put in a ziggurat to function as part of the machine. That's my read of it. Is like they're either the people who have failed the church, or this kind of like final echelon of the church is, yes, you're given eternal life, and haha, surprise, it means you get locked in a big box.
Yeah, okay.
That's my thoughts. I mean, I don't know.
No, yeah, because I specifically wanted to bring this up because I finished this game's story and was like, I do not fully understand it. Like you know, there I still have a lot of questions, but again, it was in a way that I really liked it because it felt like it was capturing. Well, I think this game did a great job of like when I was 7 years old playing something like Zelda, and I just didn't understand everything that was happening. Like I would understand the core plot. Like in this game, I understood there was the air, and I had to like, you know, help them escape or whatever, and then that was a trick. But like you know, all the stuff going on behind the scenes, like the way the world connected, didn't quite click for me as a kid, and you'd replay those games as an adult, and you'd be like, "Oh, this is great." And like, I think Tunic recaptures that so well. I think it is by design that like things like what those obelisks exactly are isn't 100% clear to you, even if you've
Yeah.
translated the manual. And I love the way they do that. I think it's like a really good form of ambiguity, which is like, and again, to contrast to Dark Souls, what I think is funny is Dark Souls also has a lot of that, but just in a way that it's like, it felt frustrating in that game because I was like, I don't understand what things you are and aren't meant to know.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, it's just such a small difference, but I really wanted to call it out because this game just like fixed what Dark Souls was trying to do for me in such a strong way.
We've been talking about Dark Souls a lot, Elliot. Do you feel like we should give Dark Souls a chance to defend itself on We Heart Games?
Yeah, should we? I mean, this is a segue, right? Are you setting me up
It is
for
a segue,
yeah.
yes.
Yeah, obviously. I mean, because this is, let's face it, we're playing Dark Souls 4.
Yeah. This is our reveal of what we're going to be doing next month. And I guess we should mention we're doing a giveaway for Elden Ring right now. And if you're listening to this later, sorry, you've missed it. Although we do giveaways on the Twitch stream, so tune into that. If you put !giveaway in chat, is that the right command, Elliot?
Yes, I've just started the giveaway. So everyone who's watching, just, !giveaway. You'll go in the draw to win a copy of Elden Ring.
Congrats. If you win, I guess. But yeah, I guess we should, while people are doing that, let's just sum up our thoughts on Tunic quickly, because I think that what we were talking about for the lore there does kind of sum it up. I feel like this game is so masterfully constructed in the sense that it gives you this manual with which it allows you to engage with things further at your own pace if you want to. And that's just so clever, and it's so natural feeling, and it just leads to this great experience of depth that you can dive into. Great game.
And like,
loved it.
Like, again, to talk about like it scratching an itch that I'd had for ages. I was so annoyed when we found out that there wasn't going to be a Zelda game that was exclusive to the Wii U. Now, this is such a personal anecdote, but like the Wii U was the most underutilized console of all time because like,
yeah,
I remember saying this like when it came out. I was like, I want like a Zelda-esque game where the point is that you draw your own maps on the gamepad tablet or like annotate the map.
Yeah,
and we never got that. And Tunic is like the closest I've seen. And we
didn't we get wasn't that with on the DS Zelda games like Spirit Tracks and Phantom Hourglass had some of that?
The resolution was so small.
Sure.
Like it was like a couple of numbers. Like basically what I wanted was what Phantom Hourglass and Spirit Tracks did with annotating the maps, but kind
of taken to the next level of the Wii U.
Level.
Totally.
And Tunic mostly does that. Like, again, I still would have loved if you actually had to draw and annotate them yourself, but like this is as close as anyone's tried, and I just loved that so much because like it is such a travesty that, you know, we went through this phase where dual screens were a thing in a lot of games, or a lot of Nintendo games at least, and nobody ever used it to its potential.
And that's what Tunic
like an
was.
80-year-old man bitching about the Wii U. This is like
Wii U.
when the Switch 3
which is undeniably Nintendo's worst performing console, right? Despite the fact that it had so much going for it. Like, it was such a, I mean, I loved the games that used the screen well. It was so good.
But this is the problem is, like, the thing that pisses me off the most about the Wii U's failure is that ultimately it's Nintendo's fault because they flubbed it. Like, for a multitude of reasons, it wasn't the two-screen gimmick's fault that this console failed, and I think that's what pisses me off, because we got this console with a great idea, great gimmick, didn't get used, and now it's probably never going to happen again, or at least not for a long time, and I'm mad about it.
Well, you know, Switch games could use it. Could they? Maybe.
Not really. Not until we've got wireless docks. So that's why Switch 3 maybe.
Okay. Yeah, interesting. Should we talk about Elden Ring a bit more, Elliot? We'll be covering Elden Ring for the next month and a half. So tune into the Twitch streams for that. I think both of us are going to be doing some streaming. Is that right? That's right.
Yeah, I'm going to try to. Yeah.
Yeah, cool. So,
especially because I have only played the first 4 hours of Elden Ring when it came out, and then I dropped it. So I'll be just starting from scratch, whereas I believe you'll probably be engaging more with the DLC that's out in like a week.
Yeah, I'm going to start from ground zero. What do you call it? Start from the beginning, let's just say. Again, and I think I'll be jumping onto stream right after this, so you can just stay tuned. But yeah, I'm looking forward to diving back into it and seeing how my thoughts on it have changed. And if you're looking forward to us comparing a game to Dark Souls again, stay tuned for our next Game Over stream.
It's definitely going to be happening. Yeah. 'Cause I enjoyed the 4 hours I played. Like, I'm keen to get back into this. This was not a game where I stopped because I wasn't enjoying it. This was a game where I stopped because life got busy and then I just never picked it up again. But I think it will be really fun to talk about the ways that this game doesn't improve on the way, the tracks Dark Souls laid out for it.
Yeah, totally. Is there anything else you want to seed about your experience with Elden Ring so far, Elliot, before we kick off the next month?
No, not really. I mean, I'm going to be bad at it, so don't watch my streams if you want good gameplay. Stick to Ruben's ones for that.
Sure. And I guess we should just mention, check the Twitch schedule below if you want to see the times for the streams in your language, in your, what do you call it? In your time zone. And we also have the Duff Plays channel where we upload all our VODs, so you can catch all of the playthroughs of Tunic and Elden Ring there if you want to go there and subscribe. Anything else we want to cover in this Game Over stream, Elliot?
I will be putting the VOD of this on the main Doof YouTube channel as well. Like, we'll upload the proper version of this to the main Doof channel. So subscribe to that YouTube as well.
Well, it looks like nobody in chat has not already got a copy of Elden Ring, so I might give it away on the stream that I do very shortly.
We'll give it to that giveaway. Everybody's saying they've already got it, which makes sense.
Fine.
Actually.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I guess tune into.
Should we do? Maybe we could do. I wonder if people have the DLC. I wonder if we should do a DLC specific giveaway.
Oh. Yeah, I mean, or quickly, just asking the people who are in chat now, so you already have a copy. Do you want a copy of the DLC?
Yeah.
I'll just do another 5-minute giveaway and we'll shout you a DLC code instead.
Yeah, cool. All right, well, I think that's the end of this Game Over stream. Thanks everyone for tuning in. Remember, subscribe and chat to you all soon.
See ya.
All right, so I will be going live